What happens when one of the most respected judges in entertainment history walks onto a morning talk show, expecting a friendly chat, only to face relentless attacks on live television? In just 49 seconds, a casual greeting would transform into the most shocking confrontation daytime TV has ever witnessed, leaving viewers absolutely speechless and one host scrambling to salvage her reputation. Simon Cowell arrived at the studio that morning with the same calm confidence he carried everywhere. He was expecting a light conversation about his latest project, a few behind-the-scenes stories, and the usual warm energy of daytime television. But the moment he sat on that plush studio couch, something felt undeniably wrong. Lorraine Kelly sat across from him with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. On either side of her were panelists Amanda Harrison and Marcus Webb, both of whom seemed to sense the uncomfortable vibe that had settled over the room. The cameras rolled, the audience leaned in, and Lorraine wasted no time in revealing exactly what kind of interview this was going to be. "So, Simon," she began, voice dripping with sarcasm, "you've made a career out of crushing people's dreams. How does it feel knowing millions watch you just to see you be cruel?" The silence that followed was sharp. Marcus shifted awkwardly, Amanda's eyebrows lifted slightly in disbelief, and Simon, ever the master of composure, offered the faintest smile. "Well, that's certainly one way to start an interview," he replied calmly. "I wouldn't call honesty cruelty, Lorraine. I simply tell people the truth." But Lorraine barked a humorless laugh. "Truth? You mean humiliation? You've embarrassed countless contestants. Do you enjoy making people feel small?" Amanda tried to interject, but Lorraine cut her off harshly. The tension grew thicker, the atmosphere heavier. And although Simon remained composed, it became clear he was beginning to lose patience. Lorraine kept pressing him, refusing to let the conversation move anywhere but into increasingly personal attacks. And then, she crossed a line. "A bully," she called him, loudly, deliberately, as if daring him to respond. The audience gasped. Amanda froze. Marcus stared at the ground. Simon's eyes hardened, and for the first time, the calm facade flickered. Something inside the room shifted. The interview was no longer merely uncomfortable. It was on the brink of exploding. Simon repeated the word slowly, letting its weight settle in the air. "A bully. That's a serious accusation, Lorraine." His voice was still calm, but firmer now, colder. "And it's completely unfounded." He leaned forward, keeping his tone measured. "I've spent my entire career helping people achieve their dreams, giving opportunities to talented individuals who might never have been discovered otherwise. Calling me a bully is not only incorrect, it's insulting." But Lorraine wasn't backing down. If anything, she seemed energized by the friction she'd created. "Is it though?" she challenged. "Because from where I'm sitting, you've built an empire on the backs of vulnerable people." Amanda's discomfort was obvious. She tried again to intervene, only to be silenced by Lorraine's sharp retort. Not just dismissed, but threatened. "Amanda, if you interrupt me one more time, I'll have you removed from this panel." The studio reacted instantly. A ripple of shocked whispers rolled through the audience. Marcus stared at Lorraine like he didn't recognize her. Amanda's face flushed with humiliation, and even Simon looked momentarily stunned, not by the attack on him, but by the host's blatant mistreatment of her own colleague. A shift occurred in Simon's demeanor. The calmness remained, but the tolerance was gone. "You know what, Lorraine?" he said, leaning back in his seat. "I came here for a professional interview. Some light banter, perhaps. Even tough questions are fine. But this is hostility, not journalism." Lorraine scoffed. "Oh, please. If you can't handle honest questions." "There's a difference between honest questions and an ambush," Simon cut in. "You're not looking for truth. You're looking for spectacle." Marcus tried again to steer things toward civility, but Lorraine snapped at him too, shutting him down with astonishing rudeness. The studio air grew thick with tension. The audience shifted, whispering nervously. Crew members exchanged glances behind the cameras. Then Simon made a decision. He reached calmly for his microphone clip, unhooked it, and stood up. "I think we're done here." Lorraine's voice cracked as she barked, "Sit down. We're in the middle of an interview." But Simon's voice stayed controlled. "No, we're in the middle of an interrogation, and I'm not participating in whatever this is." Lorraine's composure began to crumble. She stood too, pointing an accusing finger at him. "You arrogant, self-important man. This is my show. Simon paused at the edge of the stage, turned back, and delivered one statement that pierced through the entire studio. "And the way you've behaved today reflects entirely on you." The moment Simon walked away, the studio fell into chaos. Audience members were murmuring loudly now, some stunned, others angry, others already pulling out their phones to report what they had just witnessed. The producer rushed onto the stage, gesturing frantically to cut to a commercial break. Amanda sat frozen, eyes glossy, while Marcus tried to talk her through the shock. Lorraine, meanwhile, stood trembling, not with fear, but with the sudden realization that the situation had slipped completely out of her control. She shouted behind Simon, "Fine. Leave. We don't need you." But her voice sounded weaker than before, almost desperate. Backstage, Simon remained composed, gathering his things. A production assistant apologized profusely, but he waved off her concerns with his characteristic cool professionalism. "These things happen," he said gently. "Just make sure Amanda and Marcus are all right." Back on set, 5 minutes of commercial break turned into 10, then 15. The audience was restless, whispering intensely. When the cameras finally came back on, Lorraine walked to her seat with visible tension in her face. Gone was the defensive aggression. What remained was a fragile version of her hosting persona. "We're going to continue with the show," she announced stiffly. "Our interview has ended, so we'll move on to the next segment." But the audience wasn't having it. A woman in the front row raised her hand and asked boldly, "Are you going to explain what we all just watched?" Lorraine blinked, caught off guard. "I don't think that's necessary. Interviews sometimes get heated." "That wasn't heated," another audience member called out. "That was hostile." Marcus finally spoke, unable to stay silent any longer. "Lorraine, we all saw what happened. Those weren't tough questions, they were accusations." Audience applause erupted. Amanda nodded tearfully. "It wasn't fair, and it wasn't professional." Lorraine's face went red again, not from anger this time, but embarrassment. She tried to justify herself, claiming she was seeking honesty, but the excuses fell flat. The audience wasn't buying it. Her own colleagues weren't buying it. And deep down, she knew it. When the segment ended, she hurried off stage without speaking to anyone. Amanda and Marcus remained seated, stunned and exhausted, realizing they had just witnessed a career-altering moment live on national television. Backstage, the fallout had already begun. The producer cornered Lorraine in her dressing room. His voice low but firm as he listed the complaints already pouring in from crew members, from the audience, and from viewers who were messaging the show's social media accounts in real time. Lorraine's defensive posture faltered. She sat down, burying her face in her hands, finally recognizing the storm she had created. Meanwhile, Amanda and Marcus gathered in the break room. Amanda was visibly shaken. "I've never been spoken to like that," she whispered. Marcus put a steadying hand on her shoulder. "You didn't deserve it. None of us did." Outside the studio, Simon stepped into a waiting car. His phone buzzed nonstop, messages from colleagues, friends, and producers across the industry. He ignored most of them. He was tired, disappointed, and ready to move on. But as the car pulled away, the show's staff watched from the loading bay with a mixture of guilt and admiration. He had handled the situation with more grace than anyone else involved. Inside, the audience was being escorted out, many still buzzing about the drama they'd just witnessed. Several approached Amanda, offering sympathy and encouragement. She thanked them quietly, still processing the emotional blow of being threatened on live TV. Marcus stayed close, ensuring she wasn't overwhelmed. Lorraine eventually emerged from her dressing room, face pale and eyes swollen. She approached Amanda slowly. "I shouldn't have spoken to you like that," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "I was trying to get a reaction out of Simon, and I took it too far." Amanda nodded but didn't reply. The hurt was still fresh. Marcus folded his arms, studying Lorraine with disappointment. "You didn't just take it too far. You lost control." Lorraine's face tightened, but this time she didn't argue. The producer stepped in. "We need to make decisions about tomorrow's show. There will be statements. There will be questions. And there will be consequences." No one spoke. The weight of what had happened, what millions would soon watch again and again on replay, settled over them like a heavy fog. The studio lights dimmed. Crew members packed equipment in strained silence. Everything felt different now, like something had cracked open that couldn't be closed again. Upstairs, the networks. Phone lines were already filling with complaints and demands for accountability. Social media was exploding. Clips from the confrontation were going viral by the minute. And as night fell over the studio, one truth became impossible to deny. This wasn't just an interview gone wrong. It was a turning point, one that would follow everyone involved for a very long time.